Hello and welcome to Lesson 6 of our Parabola unit. This is a much shorter lesson because it's mainly review, completing the square. So if you had your partner with you, you would be filling in this table, which in the first column, the value of c needed to complete the square. So if we look at the last expression, x squared plus 10x plus c, we would add 25. Where am I getting the 25? As a reminder, we take half of b, so b divided by 2, square it. So we take b divided by 2 and square it, and that gives us the 25. So half of 10 is 5, 5 squared is 25. We write the new expression with c, so we have x squared plus 10x plus 25, and then the factored expression, x plus 5 quantity squared. Okay, so if we're solving quadratic equations, we can solve by using square roots, or we can by completing the square. So let's start by solving quadratic equations using square roots. So let's start with this first equation, and if you notice, x squared minus 16x plus 64 in factored form looks like this: x minus 8 quantity squared, and we still have it equal to 100. If you remember from algebra, root, both sides, and we set up a positive and a negative. So the positive means x minus 8 equals the square root of 100, which is a positive 10, or we also have x minus 8 equals negative 10, because negative 10 squared is 100, positive 10 squared is 100. So we do get two answers. Solve for x. X equals 18, x equals negative 2, and those are your two answers. Next section, solving quadratic equations by completing the square when a is equal to 1. You've done this in the past. It's more of a review. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to set up x squared minus 10x. I'm leaving a spot because we need to complete our square. Negative 7 is brought to the other side. So I have to add something to both sides in order not to change the problem. You can't do it to one side, you have to go to both sides. So we're going to take b, which is 10, divide that by 2, that gives us 5, but then we have to square it and place it in each of the box. So 5 squared is 25. So now we write it the left-hand side in factored form, and that gives us x minus 5. Remember, because it was minus 10x, that minus stays, and that's quantity squared, equals negative 7 and 25 is 18. Now you get to your root, both sides, and we set up the positive and the negative. So we get x minus 5 equals square root of 18 simplified is 3 root 2, and we get x minus 5 equals negative 3 root 2. So we do get two answers. We have to add 5 to both sides, so x equals 5 plus 3 root 2, x equals 5 minus 3 root 2. There's a simpler way to write this. X is equal to 5 plus or minus 3 root 2. And they are our values of x. But what if a does not equal 1. What if a is a different number? How would we work that out? Well, you can't use completing the square unless you get a equal to 1. So the first thing you're going to have to do is divide by whatever is in front for a. So we're going to divide each by 3, because if you divide one, you have to divide them all. And now we have x squared plus 8x minus 5 equal to 0. Now, because this was the super most important thing, a must equal 1 to use completing the square. Okay, so now you can move on and start completing the square. X squared plus 8x, leave a space, bring the 5 to the other side by adding 5, leave a space. So what are you going to add to both sides? Remember, half of 8 is 4, and then 4 squared gets placed up inside the box on both sides. So we have 16. Now we write it in factored form. X plus 4 quantity squared equals 5 and 16 is 21. Root, now that everything is set up properly. So we'll have x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 21. Subtract 4 from both sides. So x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus square root of 21. That's your final answer. Okay, so now, previously we went from vertex form to standard form. Now we are going to go from standard form to vertex form. Okay, and this is when we are writing the equation. So the first thing we want to do is complete the square. Because if you notice, here is your vertex form, where completing the square is a must. So we'll start with x squared minus 12x. Bring the 18 to the other side. We're making y equals 0 right now. So we're going to bring 18 to the other side by subtracting 18. So we get, I'm sorry, I'm going to make a little space here, negative 18. Okay, so then we are going to add what? We will take half of 12, which is 6. 6 squared is 36. And now this is going to look like this in factored form. X minus 6 quantity squared equals negative 18 plus 36 equals 18. Now we're going to bring everything back over. Y is equal to x minus 6 quantity squared. Subtract 18 to the other side. We bring y back in. Guess what? That's vertex form. Now it's in vertex form. Okay, let's try one more. So again, momentarily, or briefly I should say, we're going to make y equals 0 and move the 4 over to the other side. Complete the square. So you're going to add half of 6 is 3, 3 squared is 9, add 9 to both sides. Rewrite it into factored form. X plus 3, quantity squared, negative 4 and 9 is 5. back so we have it written in vertex form. Bring the 5 over, minus 5, and there you have it. Writing from standard form to vertex form. Okay, have a great day.